last month was made contingent upon approval of the rezoning.
Which ordinance? What ordinance?
2420.
420.
Some of the other things I'm just looking up what R1 would allow. Group care homes, public schools, public parks, churches, right? These
Right.
are all things that it could become.
Well,
It's not really a
within the
practical-
laws, you have to
Lose
look at the
property
size of
tax.
the lots, that's,
What's that?
Some of those things we'd lose property tax.
Right.
Can't look at that anyway, though.
Well,
But you have to look at the size of the lot. I mean, I don't think they're building too many little old country schools any longer, so I don't think that factors into the equation, and.
Well, and at the
Well,
moment,
yeah,
there's no access.
There's no
Yeah, there's no
access
access.
to
Well,
property.
Congregation Church, I don't think they're going up very often, so probably many of those aren't very relevant to the lot that we're looking at right here.
But somebody could come in and wanted to put something else in that space and buy out all the other property owners.
And theoretically, they could say the island isn't probably part of our plans anyway, so it's probably best for us to have a more rectangular lot than one that has a jettison out that partners industrial on three sides. So if we're going to play theoreticals, that would be what I'd look at as a R1 owner on that side of it.
Well, I think that's the other piece, is that the what if is not before us this evening.
Right.
The what if was not what came before the planning commission. What came before the planning commission and what's before us is a request for rezoning that was approved unanimously by the planning commission and reviewed by staff and
And I-
matches the zoning without stipulation, so.
And I just wanted to add, I mean, I know you see these things and you get a week or so to review. Staff is reviewing these for a month, 2 months before you see them. There's a lot of analysis that goes into this, a lot of thought that's put into it. This was not an easy one just because you do have the R1 and the M1. I mean, it's a situation that, you can look at a variety of different ways. Staff did land on the conclusion, though, that the rezoning should be approved simply because it seems that the lots are more suitable for M1 than R1 at this time.
And
So,
I guess in similar cases throughout the city, we have M1 adjacent to residential. We have M1 adjacent to residential at 183rd and Moonlight, and
we also have M2 adjacent to R1 in some places.
in some places, and we'd heard from that area that the residents preferred it being industrial versus a rezoning to a higher density residential. So, I think, we do have examples of compatibility throughout the community along
Right.
along Center Street.
I mean, one other thing that you have to consider with the rezoning is, in this case, we have a site plan that's already been approved. We know what they want to put there. With the M1 zoning, if they didn't build, someone else could come in with a different use there. But they would still be subject to that site plan process, and we would still have the same concerns and the same techniques for mitigating those concerns through that site plan process, so.
How would council like to proceed with ordinance 2420?
I move that we accept the Planning Commission's recommendation for approval and pass ordinance number 2420 approving Z1204 Five Star Trucking to rezone approximately 2.16 acres to M1 with no stipulations.
Second.
Motion Freeman, second Gregorczyk, that we pass ordinance 2420. Freeman.
Yes.
Gregorczyk.
Yep.
Bodovich.
No.
Morrow.
Yes.
Harrison.
yes.
2420 passes. New business item number 3, consider approving and accepting easements and rights-of-way for the final plat for Five Star First Plat. This will be final plat 12-08. All right, and we did
Nice.
have a fair amount of discussion, or I guess are there other questions? We've seen the plat easements. Any other questions? How would council like to proceed with item number 3?
I move that we approve and accept the easements and right-of-way for the final plan for 5-star first plat, subject to the conditions as listed.
Second.
Motion Freeman, second Harrison, that we approve final plat FP 12-8 and accept easements subject to conditions. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you, Amy. Oh, we're still
And then
here.
welcome back.
Still here, I'm sorry. Consider approving and accepting easements and rights-of-way for the final plat for Gardner wastewater plant, final plat 12-07.
I had a short presentation on this one, too. This is a final plat for the former wastewater plant. Here we go. Which this was the situation I was thinking of with them two adjacent to R1.
There you go.
The property is outlined in yellow on your screen, zoned General Industrial District. And the 2012 aerial photo showing the development there. And this is our Public Works maintenance facility. And then the final plat just takes all of that property and plats it as a single lot. There's not actually any site plan or any development specifically proposed at this time. However, they're doing some preliminary conceptual plans for some additional things in the future, which would go through the site plan process. The platting is just a requirement, a prerequisite to get to that point. Additionally, the city likes to have all of its property platted to follow its own regulations. So the Planning Commission did recommend approval. There were no stipulations. Any questions?
How would council like to proceed with new business item number 4?
I move we approve and accept easements and right-of-ways for the final plat for Gardner wastewater plant with no stipulations.
Second.
Motion Harrison, second Morrow, that we approve and accept the easements for final plat FP 12-07. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks.
Thank you, Amy. There we go. New business item number 5, consider authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with New Century Air Center for the sale of bulk water. David?
Thank you. Good evening. City of Gardner's been selling water to New Century for quite some time. It all stems back from when New Century deeded the former treatment plant at the base of Gardner Lake, and this New Century had water rights in Gardner Lake stemming from the Naval Air Station days. The city sells approximately half of New Century water needs to them. The other half of New Century's water needs are sold by the city of Olathe. The Olathe contract is pretty much a take or pay in which they have to purchase at least 50% of their total allotment, or 82 million gallons a year. We furnish the balance. We currently are selling water to New Century at $2.50 a thousand gallons. Based on feedback that the city administrator received from her briefings with the council, staff is recommending that the rate for this contract start at $2.75 instead of $2.50. Then in the future, it would increase based on a rate equal to or not to exceed what we are increasing for our normal customers. We would recommend approval of the agreement. It's a 20-year agreement, which would supply approximately a minimum of 75,000 gallons of, I always get my decimal points in dealing with water messed up because they're so enormous, but we have a minimum amount of water we will sell them or be able to supply them. And with that, I will stop and answer any questions.
Dave, can you talk a little bit about the priorities? So for instance, if we